Speaking at the opening of the SADC summit in Pretoria. And that's where now we take you back live to Pretoria, and our reporter Patricia Visagie once again standing by.
Thank you so much, Obriel. Now, inter-regional trade is one of the key issues topping the agenda here at the SADC summit. I earlier spoke to the Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry of Botswana on this particular issue, and I started by asking him what some of the highlights are here at the summit and what are the reforms on trade that the leadership here has decided on. So let's go to that interview.
We have reached a very exciting time in terms of the SADC. I come from the Ministry of Trade, and I would be more interested to talk about issues around trade. We have a signed protocol, trade protocol on services, and these areas that are interested in are five areas, in fact. That is communication, tourism, ICT, and transport. Of these four, already member states have signed. There are two that are outstanding, that is in the construction area and in the energy sector. We believe that within a very short space of time, we'll be able to sign on those two. Once we have done that, we'll have completed the trade on services, and that will open markets in the region.
Your biggest vision on trade, of course, that links to economic growth and development is industrialization. Now, how do those link to that agenda?
We have a very clear plan in terms of our industrialization roadmap. The first thing that we are interested in is the integration of our economies. And to do that, we have to have a solid infrastructure as a basis for us to be able to reach all corners of Africa. Essentially, also what we are doing is that we are entering into different agreements at continental level that would allow to open markets in other areas that have not been. The essential point is effectively to remove the trade barriers, and that we believe that we are doing very well in that area.
When you say you're doing well, bring us into the picture in terms of the progress made. I know part of the agenda is to have a stronger integrated trade program around the region, and that is with the long-term, of course, agenda to have a stronger integrated SADC. So if you can bring us into the picture in terms of the progress made.
The progress we've made is that after signing all these agreements, there has been some barriers that have been put in place. We've been able to remove that. By removing that, essentially, we are now affording different states, member states, to be able to move their goods relatively much easier than in the past. When you look at the border, we now have improved our border situation, where in terms of the ease of doing business, you'd find that we have a single border management, unlike in the past where you'd have two administrative borders at a point.
That links to the issue of free movement in the region. That's part of the agenda here at the summit, isn't it?
It is very topical when you talk about free movement of the people. As we speak now, we have not reached a resolution in terms of that one, of free movement of people. But in terms of trade, we have reached an agreement where effectively we have come with a legal instrument that is now gone for scrubbing by the legal experts, where we'd have free movement for business persons.
South Africa, of course, is now the official chair of SADC. President Jacob Zuma took up the chairmanship earlier at the opening. And some of the points that he raised were on raw material from the African continent, urging the leaders to come up with better reforms to make sure that Africa's raw material is developed here instead of imported and imported at higher prices and so forth. If you can maybe bring us into the picture as to what you make of what he urged the leaders, what you make of that, and where do we stand in terms of making that a possibility for the people of SADC?
I think that's a true fact that he raised, because mostly our commodities are transferred to different countries. And one of the things that have led to that is with regard to resources in terms of expertise, to be able to make sure that what we produce, we are able to refine and to beneficiate. So it was a good call for us as governments to be able to know that it's very important that we basically add value to what we produce inside the continent.
And I could read between the lines that he was actually asking the leaders to take a page from your book, saying, you know, Botswana has already led in terms of the diamond industry, saying, but nothing has been lost since you decided to actually process your own diamonds.
No, it's very true. When you raise that point, I mean, because of the level of development as well of different countries, even in particular in Botswana, at a point we are seen as basically lagging in terms of bringing our diamonds, but we did not have the expertise. Expertise is very critical in terms of beneficiation, but we believe that in terms of the advancement in the educational sector, we should be able to reach a point where now we should be able to do a lot in terms of improving our economic situation.
On the issue of water, now a drought in the region is a problem as well, and that's a direct threat to food security and so forth. What can you tell us relating to that?
Climate change is real, and therefore in the first place what is critical is now as people to change our habits in terms of how to use water. Last year or 2 years ago, when my president was the chairman, one of the topics that he put forward was basically to declare a program where basically we recognize there's a drought in the country, where effectively we are basically asking for assistance from different country cooperating partners who can support us. I mean, for example, I was very excited when I listened to the news the other day in respect to Cape Town, where effectively there's a shortage of water, and that now coming into proper serious management of water. Water is our next diamond.
And we have a country such as Lesotho, where a lot of countries in the SADC region turn to Lesotho for water, for instance, such as South Africa. And I'm sure as SADC, it is very much important that you all play a role to stabilize the political situation in that country, so that Lesotho can play its rightful role in the SADC region.
Indeed, SADC has played a very critical part in terms of stabilizing and making sure that the conditions in Lesotho are stable. We strongly believe that the new government that is in place would pay heed to the recommendations of different bodies that have been in charge of making sure that Lesotho becomes stable. There has been a commitment from the government that indeed they will follow the recommendations. We believe that everybody recognizes that peace and security is the foundation for development.
And going back to the issue of funding that I guess also has an impact on trade. We've heard some of the leaders saying that it's important to develop enough funding for SADC, independent funding, so that the region does not depend that much on donors giving money that comes with terms and conditions that has some murkiness attached to it. Where do we stand in terms of getting enough or generating enough funds right from the belly of SADC instead of going to the West to borrow money?
See, other things being equal, one would want to believe that we would not need to engage international cooperating partners. But the level of development of member states is at different levels. And therefore, in particular countries, it is critical to ask for assistance of that nature. But more importantly, the SADC have come to an agreement that indeed there have to be a fund. It is this fund that we believe that a member state will be contributing to, and effectively thereafter being able to use this fund to promote development in different member states.
Just in closing, are you happy with some of the achievements that the former chair Swaziland made throughout their tenure when they were at the helm? Are you happy with some things that you perhaps expected that they didn't deliver on, in short?
I think they've done very well. They've done very well. It was quite an interesting year. And one of the areas that they did very well was basically around the energy, where they were able to have a committee or a summit of sorts for all those people from the private sector and government to meet. And from the report that we are getting, that they had come with a program and timelines where they'd be able to follow up. We believe that was a good achievement. Another area of interest was that they are opening a university where effectively they offered sponsorship to different member states, around 20 students per member state. That in itself must be applauded.
Minister of Investment, Trade, Industry of course, Botswana, bring us into the picture there in terms of what some of the trade reforms are here at the SADC summit that some of the leaders have agreed on. And he is Vincent Siretse, like I said, from Botswana, talking about different measures that the leaders are looking at to, of course, advance economic growth and development here in the SADC region. But let's go back to studio.